Hello all, it's Adria. Happy Easter and welcome back to my kitchen. Today the cooking method that we will be discussing is roasting, and the dish that we will be preparing is oven roasted asparagus. So let's get right to it. Alrighty, so to begin, roasting is a dry heat cooking method that seeks to have a tender inside with a crisp exterior. The temperature used to cook with this method is going to vary based on what you're cooking. So the things that are typically cooked with this method are meat, poultry, and vegetables. So, and the equipment that you're going to use is also going to be vary based on what you're cooking. So, when it comes to meat, you're typically going to cook large chunks of meat, large pieces of meat. You'll have like a tenderloin versus like a small cutlet of beef or pork or something of that nature. As far as poultry goes, you'll typically be roasting a whole bird. And when it comes to vegetables, you'll be cooking a decent amount of vegetables. As far as the equipment goes, meat is typically cooked within a roasting pan or on a roasting pan. Some people even roast within a crock pot. As far as poultry goes, you'll typically use a roasting rack for that. And with vegetables, you'll be using a raised baking sheet, which is exactly what we'll be using today. All right, so because we're cooking asparagus, our main focus is going to be on roasting vegetables. So to begin, what you'll need is a chef's knife. And what this does is incorporate those nice knife skills that you started off the semester using. And what you'll do is you'll evenly cut your vegetables into evenly sized pieces, which I have already done with our asparagus. Then you'll also need a nice oil, typically one that can withstand high temperatures. And the one we'll be using today is olive oil. Another thing that you'll need is, of course, that rimmed baking sheet. And you'll want a pan that can withstand high temperatures without warping. You typically want it to be very thick with no hot spots. You want to make sure that you're cooking them at a high heat. And what this does is kind of helps promote the conversions of the starches within the vegetables to sugars, which means that they'll end up being tastier at the end. And so our temperature that we'll be cooking on today is actually 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Alrighty, and then of course you'll want a metal spatula, and this will help with the turning process, because as you can imagine, if you're going to have something in the stove, there's going to be one side that will brown faster, and so you'll need to at least turn them once. So let's get right to it. So what our recipe calls for is asparagus, one bunch of asparagus. So the bunch that I bought was 1 pound. It also calls for 3 cloves of minced garlic. It also called for a tablespoon and a half of Parmesan grated cheese, a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. So I've already prepared our asparagus here. And I have already preheated our oven. So now what we're going to do is take our pan, and as you can see, I've lined it with oil. What this does is just simply prevents me from having to do a dish. I know it's kind of lazy, but do a dish at the end of this. So I've already prepared our asparagus, and now I'm just going to walk over to my oven here and place it inside. I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes, and then we'll be back. So what I'm going to do is more than likely roast them closer to the 20-minute mark. So what I'll do is I'll set a timer for 10 minutes to turn the asparagus over, and then allow the additional 10 minutes for the other side to brown. And then we should have some nice, crisp roasted asparagus. So I'm going to set that timer now, and then I'll be right back. All right. So the 10 minutes has elapsed, And now I am going to take our nice metal spatula and remove our asparagus from the oven in order to flip it and then allow it to roast the remaining 10-minute duration. Our spatula. And flip it over. Much easier than trying to do by hand. Pretty sure there's a more graceful way to do this, but for the time being, till we get that good snap or flick of the wrist, whatever you want to call it, till we get that down pat, this is what we're rocking with. Alrighty. And once I've got them all flipped, what I'm going to try to do is evenly space them, because what can happen if you overcrowd your pan here is that the vegetables actually end up steaming instead of roasting. Alrighty. Alright, so we kind of got everything evenly spaced here. And now I am just going to place it back in the oven. Set our timer for that last 10 minutes. And then we'll be back in 10. All right. Moved everything from the oven, and here you have our finished product. Nicely oven roasted asparagus. Thank you for hanging with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy Easter, and have a great rest of your day. Catch you next time.